Finally caught up to House of the Dragon, and it is definitely a really great show. Hi, my name's Drew and welcome to another review video on Flying Wiener. Now, Game of Thrones, of course, was a worldwide sensation when it came out, and up to its very end. Last season, which was season 8, was very controversial. Many people weren't happy. I was overall still happy with how the story ended, etc. I was quite happy with that. My criticism of the last series would be that, it just felt a bit rushed, and it felt like we were jumping over a lot of events, etc., just to get to the end, to end it finally. Felt a bit weird, so I believe they could have easily added at least one more season or so to really flesh out the story more, and to make it seem not quite as rushed. Certain decisions people criticise, about the ending itself. I felt it was fine, it was okay. I was quite happy with how it ended. Now, of course, endings with Game of Thrones is another big topic itself, because George R.R. Martin, the author, famously has not released the 6th book, and there's even a 7th book that comes after. And while I myself would also love to read those, because I read the first 5 and really liked them, I'm not really not really too annoyed by that. I mean, yes, I would have loved to, but now actually I don't really feel a desire to, unless they are published and I hear that it's really, really worthwhile. Because I feel that, while the show, of course, they did their own ending, we did get an ending at least, and unless the book one is vastly different, I don't really see a big thing about it to read it. And instead, in the meantime, he's been working on the prequel story, basically, to Game of Thrones, the ages that came before them, the years. And I really, really like that, I must say, because after watching House of the Dragon, I'm like, yeah, this is actually very interesting. So I'm not really mad about that. We did get an ending to Game of Thrones, and we're getting more stuff here, and I feel that, I'll talk about this a bit later, I feel that it has all the best bits that people really loved about Game of Thrones. As we usually do with these reviews, I will tell you about the plot, so you've got a basic idea. I will assume, though, that you have at least heard or seen Game of Thrones, so that you kind of know the world. I won't explain that in big detail. But what is it about? The story is actually, it's set about 170 years before the events that we know from Game of Thrones, or if you're a book fan, A Song of Ice and Fire, as the series is called. Game of Thrones is actually just a book in the series, but it's a cool name, I will say. I think it's very fitting. I can see why they chose it for this series. We are actually seeing the big house Targaryen, which of course did appear in Game of Thrones, but was just one element of many. Here it is the dominating force. So if you don't remember the Targaryens, they're very easy to spot visually, because they've all got this sort of silvery white hair. And we see how, they came about, and we've got one thing that people in particular obviously loved about the show generally, the dragons. We've got them here as well. So they rule the 7 kingdoms, and we have got King Viserys. He is sitting on the throne, and we see how he is dealing with the question of succession, because he, like many people in our medieval history as well, wanted, of course, a male heir, a male successor, but he does not have any male children. So the basic gist of the House of the Dragon is that he names his daughter, Rhaenyra, his successor. And that causes a lot of upheaval and trouble, etc., because people won't, they won't take a woman on the throne. And then you've obviously, if you're familiar with this world, you've got a lot of people plotting because they want more power, they want to even sit on the throne, and you've got all these things going on. So that is the basic setting we've got here, and you've got all the story elements that you loved about Game of Thrones. So you've got all these different families with all their own interesting aspects and history, and it's amazing how this world is fleshed out, and with time you actually learn all these houses and you get to know them and you know what they're about, etc. I really like that element of it. You've got the dragons here, which of course did appear in Game of Thrones as well, and many people, I myself included, would have loved to have seen more of them. This is kind of wish fulfillment in that sense, because we not only see more of the dragons, there just simply are more dragons. So you see a variety, and that's also quite cool in the various designs that you get. You've got political intrigue. That's obviously one thing that people really love about, just this world. and the books and the TV shows. So you've got a lot of people, you know, they're scheming, trying to get their own advantage, trying to, you know, fulfill their own agenda. And it's very interesting because you never know what people are about, you know. I mean, I would hate to live in this, love I suppose as well, but to live in this world, because you never know who is actually truly a friend and who is just trying to, you know, stick a knife in your back at the first good opportunity. But, you know, as somebody watching it, of course, it's very exciting, and you're watching all these things. And yeah, just the settings are great as well. I mean, the good thing about it is we know the settings from Game of Thrones, so they don't really spend a lot of time to explain these things to you. They do assume that you have seen the shows, which is fair. You know, I mean, like I say, it was really a global phenomenon, Game of Thrones. So that is great, and you know, we're familiar with this. So it's interesting to see the same world, but you know, with sort of the pieces, the individual pieces, just completely swapped out for other ones here. So yeah, I like all these things. Plot-wise, I thought the first season was really good. I'm very excited to see the next one already. You know, I've just finished it and I already want to see how the story continues. It is really solid. The plot throughout, you know, I feel that if all these things sound interesting to you, you will be satisfied throughout the whole thing. You know, you've got people who you like, and then suddenly, you know, you discover, no, actually you don't like them because they are indeed horrible people or do horrible things and that. So, you know, that's constantly switching as well. The characters themselves are great. The actors are amazing. They always choose great actors for these shows. I wouldn't even single anyone out really, because they all do a great job. And you like them for different things, many of them. One thing I will say, just if you are unprepared for this, the story does have time jumps. So the book it's based on, which is called Fire and Blood, if I'm not mistaken, is also a bit similar in that sense, where it's not just, you know, we're not just seeing a contained 1 or 2 years, we're seeing the story develop over years, and in this case, even decades. So there's particularly one episode, from one to the next, there's a really drastic time jump. Just be prepared for that, because it is a bit off-putting the first few minutes until, you know, you finally, you sort of reorient yourself, you know, and get, okay, right, there's been a time jump, etc. It's a bit weird, but I get why they did it, you know, just because just obviously not many events happened in the meantime. So they want to get to the juicy things, which I actually appreciate. I wouldn't have appreciated having just maybe a filler episode where they just plod along for a few years without any big things happening. So while I like this decision, I think they could have just done it a bit better. Anyway, one thing I already mentioned I want to talk about, the effects. And watching this series, in particular, of course, the dragons as well, it's just crazy. I was sitting there going, if you told someone in the year 2004 or 5 that this is the kind of quality of TV animation we're going to have in 2022, because it came out last year, amazing. It really truly is amazing. There's only one close-up of a dragon where I thought, it didn't look quite that great, you know, compared to the rest, but overall, magnificent work, you know. I mean, like I say, again, crazy to think that this is what we have for TV. I mean, the effects look better than some films that are in the cinema, you know, either this or last year. So that is really something that we should be so grateful for. They're just a high level of quality that TV offers nowadays, and the actors they bring in, and you know, the sound, the music, everything, just the high production values are really, really good. And there isn't actually much I can fault the show for, really. I mean, even thinking about it, there might be 1 or 2 characters that I personally don't like or so, but I mean, that's not something that you can fault the show for, you know. That's just the writing, and those are just the characters. In a sense, you could say they're doing a good job, because if I like all the characters, then something must be wrong, because these characters are doing all sorts of even heinous things, you know, so I feel you're not supposed to like them all. So if you are a fan of Game of Thrones, or you watched the whole series, or at least a part of it, and you heard about this, you've probably already seen the show. If you have, definitely, you know, let me know about it in the comments below. But if you haven't, or you know, you weren't quite sure, do you really want to? If the last season of Game of Thrones left a sour taste in your mouth, I mean, just because of the drop of quality in that, I was also skeptical when they showed the first trailer for House of the Dragon. I was like, not too sure about it. Then it started coming out weekly, you know, the episodes came out weekly, and I just saw everyone on the internet really raving about it and just talking about the high quality and all these great aspects. I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to check this out now, and I'm so glad I did, because really, if you miss the good old days of Game of Thrones where it was at its peak, you know, somewhere around the mid part probably of the whole story, where it was just amazing and you couldn't wait to watch the next episode because it's got so many great elements, this really captures the best elements of Game of Thrones. But like I say, for me at least, with more dragons. You know, some of them are massive, then you've got others like great designs with long necks. They are just really, really cool, and I love that we've got more of them here. So yeah, I highly recommend this. You know, you will definitely enjoy this show. And like I say, I can't wait to see what happens next. That'll be all from me today. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It is the best way to support this channel. As I said, leave a comment down below whether you've seen this or want to see it, or you're a big Game of Thrones fan, or you're a Song of Ice and Fire, a book fan. Have you read Fire and Blood? I haven't, I must say, because it kind of flew under my radar a bit. Not sure if I will read it now or whether I'll wait for them to do this here. I'll have to decide. But anyway, if you've got comments on any of that, leave them down below. I'll thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one on Flying Wiener. Take care.